Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 270 of the J Situation Podcast. I'm recording this on August 5th, 2025. How are all you wonderful folks doing? Yeah, I hope you're doing well. Things are good on this end. A ton of report writing, a lot of analysis, but that's okay. Sometimes you have to do office work, and it's good to get ahead. Working on some neat tools for you folks that you'll be able to use and kind of look at the data in a little bit of a different way, which I think is always great. Maximizing data utility is one of our primary goals here. What good is testing if the data that comes out of it isn't useful, right? That's one of our mantras. So there's a lot to cover today. First up, technical deep dive on last week's 4 Systems Monarch Recce report on the Mark 18. And that was a cool little silencer, so we're going to talk about that in detail. Secondly, we're publishing yet another report with today's episode. Concurrently, it's going to be the Otter Creek Labs Infinity on the 14.5-inch M4. Yeah, so that's right, yet another Infinity report for you. And yes, it has the 3 end caps in the evaluation. So that's going to be 3 test reports for you in the morning in one article. And there are some really big conclusions in this one. So you're going to want to check it out, I think. There are counterintuitive conclusions, actually, for a lot of people that you may not realize happen when you go from Mark 18 to M4 with the Infinity. So we're going to hit the article intro as the second topic today. One moment. Okay, so let's get on with the show. If you've been here before, welcome back. If you're new to the podcast, gosh, welcome. We're so glad to have you. There are timestamps, as always, in the episode description for you to skip to wherever you would like. And if you want to hang around with me a little longer, I'm just telling you about these sponsors that make this podcast possible every week. The salt of the earth, I say. The podcast is brought to you by Legion Athletics. Nothing you do, exercise, sports, really anything is worth doing without consistency if you want to be good at it, right? You have to do things all the time if you want to excel. And so Legion Athletics can help you with that. They don't have everything you need, but they have a lot of it. They got whey protein, pre-workout, post-workout, creatine, which is one of the most important things you can use for cognitive benefits they're discovering now as well, which is something new to me that I've been reading about, which is really cool. There's a link in the show notes. Use the code word PewScience whenever you buy something there. You click on that link, and you're going to get, if you use code word PewScience, you'll get buy one, get one 50% off your entire shopping cart, which is wild. And if you keep using it, you get 20% cash back using points. Even after the first time you use the code, you just use it every time. And man, that's really great, because if you're like me and you buy supplements all the time and you have to replenish your supply, that could be good to save you money. This podcast is also brought to you by Silencer Shop, very large distributor of silencers. Okay, Silencer Shop endorses the Silencer Sound Standard, which it comes out of our lab, PewScience, which is really important. And if you're a new dealer looking to get into the space and you don't want to carry a lot of inventory, maybe maintain some low overhead, maybe Silencer Shop is the distributor for you. Okay, I know a lot of customers nationwide love using their kiosk to do their fingerprints and photos electronically right there in the store, and it simplifies all the stuff and cuts down on errors, right? So that's pretty good. It's just you and your silencer with no drama. Truly, the silencer ownership simplified. Speaking of Silencer Shop dealers, Top Gun Range out of Houston is one of them. And you know, they sponsor this podcast, and Kyle and his crew down there in Houston are so good at what they do. You should, if you are in Houston, go check out Top Gun, 15-lane indoor range. They let you rent the firearms and the silencers. So you can actually shoot suppressed small arms in their range, maybe hang out on the nice comfortable couches they have there, maybe take a class, maybe buy a couple things, and then maybe you go hang out with Kyle and his gang and have a beer. But don't do it while you're shooting guns. That's not responsible. Check them out at topgunrange.com. kind of. And then also Capital Armory. Did you know that silencers are in high demand and that you have options? You do. Capital Armory is a pretty good one. Capital Armory is also located here in Texas, and they are here to help you get silencers with a unique twist. You can actually order silencers from Capital Armory from their website and get them shipped to your door. Yeah, that's a pretty big deal. It actually cuts down on a lot of back and forth for a lot of people. I know that I'm a person that, frankly, I do not have time to go to gun stores very often. I work 2 jobs, and it's really not easy for me. You know, if you work nights, maybe when you're off, gun store might not even be open and you're sleeping. So I think the more consumers can have options to buy sponsors, the better. Okay, it really is that easy. Capital Armory, sponsorship directly to your door. Finally, this podcast is brought to you by the Pew Science Laboratory. I'm the technical director of the lab, and the interest of public education. Man, this is episode 270. I mean, we continue to sponsor this podcast and conduct it, reviewing all the research in real time in plain English for you. Okay, we want to push the industry forward one test at a time, and you can visit pewscience.com for the suppression rating. It's the simplest, most accurate hearing-safe rating for your suppressed small arms based on true human inner ear response of the entire gunshot from before the combustion takes place all the way until all the combustion is gone. We test in the true free field. It's a pure interpretation of the mill standard. Been around for decades, but we do it right. We do it consistent. We do it for you every time. There are 7 sections in the standard. There'll be more later. It's the most in-depth and accurate science or data analysis in the world, all available to the public 24/7 at pewscience.com. You can support this podcast. You can support our lab. You can support all the testing we do by joining with a membership at pewscience.com. And you know what? If you don't want to have a recurring fee, hit the donate button on the review page or the podcast page. Every little bit helps. And if you don't want to give any money at all, that's okay. Just spread the word. Let folks know that silencers and guns are awesome. And we can all work together to normalize the use of suppressed small arms. Okay, that's a big goal. So 2 topics for you today. Like I said, first we're going to hit the 4 Systems Monarch Recce on the Mark 18 deep dive for the article that was published last week on July 30th. That was last Wednesday, I believe. And then next we're going to hit the intro talk for the Infinity on the M4. That's a big one. Okay, all right, let's move into topic 1. Hold on. I have like a bunch of silencers on top of my paper and I can't write my timestamps. Oh my God. He's prepared. Topic. Shit. Topic 1 at a time of 6 minutes and 58 seconds. Okay, very good. Sound Signature Review 6195. 4 Systems Monarch Recce on the 10.3-inch 5.56 Mark 18. The form factor wars are heating up. You know, this silencer, it's a little over 5 inches long as tested. It's ready to party. It's a hybrid design. I think this is changing the status quo. Talked about that last time. A lot of people ask, well, do short 5.56 silencers have to be loud? Well, you know, some people in the industry say yes. I can show you that that's maybe not true. Okay, let's move into this technical talk. And, you know, I want to say last episode last week, I really thought the format worked really well for the Dylan technical talk that we used. It kept us on track. We used kind of subtopics, and I timestamped each one. I think that was really good for organization. I think we're going to do that again here today. So this, where is it? It's like 16 silencers in front. Okay, this silencer is so interesting, and it's really not that often you see a centerfire rifle silencer this small that actually performs well enough for you to pay a lot of attention to the performance. Right? Usually you dismiss it. Most of the time, silencers this small are exceedingly loud. Right? Excuse me. Most of the time they're exceedingly loud. Not this time. One moment. I have a frog in my throat. Sorry about that. 4 Systems is really making a name for themselves relatively early in their company's history. They're very new. And so they're bringing performance that I think, frankly, a lot of very long established companies have not been capable of bringing in a form factor like this. Okay, so let's get into what makes it tick. Okay, we're gonna move into the physical overview at a time of 8 minutes and 55 seconds. Yeah, we're gonna cook with grease here. So as shown to you in the report, it's a little guy. Yeah, it's a little guy, and I want to be clear because we provide measurements and weights to you from ourselves, right? We don't give those metrics from the manufacturer, you know, from their websites, and we don't give you the metrics from a distributor website like Silencer Shop. We are definitely not using Silencer Shop's information, guys. You have to keep in mind metrics on those websites are usually incorrect. Okay, they are. They're incomplete or they're inaccurate. They're one of those 3. I mean, that's been our experience. That was my experience when I was a consumer. Like you, and now it's my experience when I run a lab. I can tell you nothing's changed in these 5 years, and so you can be assured that what we place on our reports is correct to the best of our knowledge and effort at the time of report publication. Okay, I mean, I'm not trying to insult anyone. I'm just saying it's important to know that you got to be careful. So without a mount, this thing is about 4.94 inches long. I say about. It's exactly 4.94 inches long. It's a little less than 5 inches long. So that's very small for a 5.56 silencer, right? It's 1.62 inches in diameter, so a little bigger than your 1.5 inch diameter legacy stuff that you're used to, but it's smaller than the newfangled 1.75 inch stuff, right? I mean, it's hub capable, and we tested it with a Zilch mount threaded to a Reardon R2S close-tie flash hider. Now, due to the geometry of that Zilch mount, it allows the flash hider to be more recessed into the first expansion chamber of the silencer, and the shoulder of the muzzle device doesn't protrude aft of the mount, like back towards you. Okay? And so when you put this mount system in the silencer, the total length with the mount installed as we tested it only gets to 5.13 inches. Okay, so that's adding a little less than a quarter inch to the system from no mount to mount on the gun. I mean, that's like not a lot, and that's one of the reasons people kind of like that Zilch mount, so-called Zilch mount, right? But something worth noting about it, and let's slow your roll. Something worth noting here about that mount system is you typically wouldn't want to use something like a Zilch mount in a hub silencer, typically. And let me tell you why. Don't get upset. It's just generally, not always, but generally, it's a bad idea to use a mounting system that forces the muzzle device super close to the first reflector in the silencer. Okay? You typically don't want to be right up on that blast baffle unless the system's designed for doing that. Now, some people they get upset when I say what I'm about to say. I'll say it anyway. The so-called universal hub mounting system, it's a blessing and a curse. It has to be used with great care and great responsibility. I think that some silencer mounting systems that exist purely because the hub interface is a thing are things that should not exist, and they do more harm than good. Is the Zilch mount one of those things? I don't know that I would go that far. I'm not saying that. But I am saying you need to be careful, because when you put a muzzle device extremely close to a blast baffle, you can accelerate erosion. Okay? Am I saying that's going to happen in this particular case? No, I am not saying that necessarily. I'm just saying you have to remain cognizant of it, okay? I don't want to not mention that and then you don't know about it, and then maybe have a problem down the road and you wonder what's going on. Another thing that can happen when you put the orifice of a blast pressure origin really close to your blast baffle is subpar performance. Okay, now you may see lower suppression performance. You may see back pressure increase. Sometimes you don't know what's going to happen sometimes. And I will say that in this particular case with the Monarch Recce, the performance is actually really good when doing this. And I want folks to make sure to understand that this case is not typical. It's not a typical case. With many traditional silencer designs, this would not be the case. Is the Monarch Recce special? Well, all our children are special. No, to be serious, yeah, it's a little exotic in that it's a hybrid design with early venting, and it's important to understand that not all silencers react the same way. Okay, and we're going to get into that. Okay, the silencer is Inconel, 3D printed, distal venting. The one they sent for testing is Cerakoted green. It's kind of like an olive color. I like the way it looks. It has big hex features on the back to wrench on it, subtle knurling on the end to grip it. Clean design, well thought out. It's not gaudy looking, seems attractive. That's my subjective opinion of how it looks. Okay, it weighs 13.4 ounces without the mount system. As tested with the mount, it's a little over a pound. Okay, makes sense. So, okay, what we'll do now, let's talk a little bit more about the design at a time of 14 minutes and 28 seconds. Okay, very good. Yeah, so like I was saying earlier, this is a hybrid design, and there are tons of sentences used in our reports that define that for you, and you can go read that on our website at pewscience.com if you want to know what that is. Now, what you need to understand is that this silencer manages flow rate in early time and late time, in order to ensure the weapon on which you are using it does not overfunction. You're trying to make the weapon not gas you out within reason, and you're trying to make the system still exhibit enough or high enough suppression performance such that the level of protection you get is acceptable to you and acceptable to those around you. Okay, guys? So without hybrid design characteristics, it's very difficult to achieve the scenario. It really is. Traditional silencers simply do not provide what I just described. I know that everyone loved the old AAC M4 2000. Trust me, I get it. I know everyone loves that Otter Creek Labs Polonium series. I know. I get it, guys. I get it. I'm a silencer guy through and through. I understand why you like those silencers. But there are levels to this, and technology has advanced. And look, I'm not picking on Otter Creek Labs. We're literally going to talk about the Infinity next. So you know what I'm saying, guys. This is factual stuff. For those of you new to the podcast, we speak a lot of facts here. Sometimes people get upset. That's okay. Now, so 4 systems, they tackled the challenge of this balancing flow rate with level of protection. They tackled the challenge with some conventional baffles, but they do have a unique nested blast baffle that does vent. It's pretty cool. I kind of like that. That's just my opinion. I like the way they did that. It's pretty unique, and they've been doing that since the old Monarch last year. If you're keeping score. So that vents, and actually the main early venting is something you might miss if you don't look close enough. This is kind of cool. If you look really closely in the first expansion chamber of the silencer, you're going to see the entire inner circumference of the first baffle throat is vented. There's a little gap there, and what does that path lead to? Yeah, it leads to a spiral annulus. That's right. The annulus has ribs inside, and what the little clever thing they did that I thought was neat is that they varied the ribbing when you get close to the end before the vent, right? So why would you do that? That's a different pressure stage. Why? Gas is expanding more, need different geometry for efficiency. That's right. And you'll see those circumferential distal vents when you look at the end of the silencer. You can see it from the outside. I've simplified this description a lot to you, but in the interest of time, and you can read the report if you want, you get the idea, yes? Now, what are they doing technically here? Well, they're avoiding stagnation in early time by immediately venting. Another word for that is they are clearing off of the first reflector. Okay, those waves are clearing early, and you don't get a lot of impulse accumulation. And what does that do? It helps your weapon function. That's right. And they're managing the vented blast loads pretty well too. So when they do get to the distal end and they are venting them, they're managing them so you don't get a wild momentum propagation rate out of the end of the silencer. Yeah, the omega metric's actually not super low, which is actually a good thing in this situation, given the low alpha. Okay, so when I say low alpha, I mean the low impulse accumulation in the first expansion chamber, that quick venting, that high early time flow rate. When you have a high early time flow rate, but you manage to keep omega a little bit higher, a little bit of a lower late time flow rate, you get things like what? This Monarch Recce. What else? Cat WB. Stuff like that, okay? Yeah, I know. But you didn't think I was going to say that, did you? It's all cut from the same cloth holistically. Completely different science, completely different technology, but philosophy lines up. Why would that be? Are these people listening to this podcast? They might be. I'm not taking credit for that. That brings us into the performance discussion. So why don't we go ahead and hit that? I had a time of 18 minutes and 58 seconds. He's going to get in trouble. Okay, now's a good time. If you haven't already, please pull up last week's report on the website if you would like to follow along. This is Sound Signature Review 6195, published last week. Members, of course, as always, please pull up the full version when you're logged in. If you're not a member, that's always fine. You can pull up the free report. I will not leave you behind. Okay. Remember, now we're on a 10.3-inch Mark 18. And I know we've been hopping hosts a lot lately, so I don't want you to be confused. Bottom line up front, 32.3 suppression rating, 1 meter left of the end cap, 1.6 meters above the ground in the true free field. That's mil standard, guys. That's mil standard. 24.9 suppression rating, 6 inches right of the shooter's right ear, mil standard, giving us a composite suppression rating of 33.3 on the standard untuned 10.3-inch barrel Mark 18 with H2 buffer, 070 gas port size, stock position 4 of 6. Standard. We use real guns, the same every time. Pew Science. Now, the numbers I just told you, these suppression rating metrics, does anything seem particularly interesting to you here? And I'm going to give you my opinion. I would say, yes, very interesting. The silencer is 5 inches long, guys. This is a 10.3-inch Mark 18, guys. These suppression rating metrics are not normal. They are not normal. I don't care if you like Force Systems or not. I don't care if you like Pew Science or not. This is objective data, and it's not normal. Just real quick, like let's have it come to Jesus. A Surefire SOCOM 5.56 RC2 with a 3-prong, something basically designed for this gun, is hitting 35.4 at the muzzle and only 22.2 at the ear. The Recce is very competitive with that, with lower back pressure. And it's 1 1/4 inch shorter than an RC2. The Recce is the size of a 5.56 Mini 2. Okay, yes, correct. Both the Surefire and the Recce are actually hybrid designs. That's true. Don't think, oh, he doesn't like Surefire. No, I think Surefire is cool. I think they have great silencers. I've always been a huge Surefire fan. And the RC2 is a hybrid design. They got it from Ops. Okay, look at the pedigree in the history. I'm going to tell you right now, the technology in the Recce is much more advanced. Considerably more advanced. So let's look into it. Let's go deep. Scroll down to the data plots. Yeah. Scroll down. You can pass the table. The numbers can scare you. Scroll down to Figure 1A, Figure 1B, please. It's the plots in the time domain with pressure on the vertical axis. In Figure 1A, typical fast blowdown behavior of small and or high flow rate silencers. Nothing should really surprise you there. However, what is interesting is the way the blast pressure is throttled. Yes. Before fully exploring that, though, I do think it's important to look at the FRP, and I did mention this to someone on the internet today. Someone was asking, just real quick about FRP. Someone was talking about purging a silencer with air, and they said, gosh, that's cheating. It's going to help FRP. I said, no. You got that wrong, my friend. By purging a silencer with air, you're actually ensuring FRP would happen, if it's going to happen, because the air supports extra combustion. Yeah. Excuse me. And that's one of the reasons FRP can even happen, because there's air in the silencer. Now, if you really want to purge a silencer with a gas and not have FRP happen, use an inert gas. Yeah. Or at least get the oxidizer out of the atmosphere in the silencer. Get the oxidizer out. Use your imagination. So looking back at, sorry for that aside, but I wanted to explain FRP to you really quickly. And it's going to become important in a second. So why don't you look at Figure 1B. This is the zoomed in blast pressure. Okay, it's a blast pressure in early time. The same stuff you're seeing in 1A, but it's only for the first 2 shots and is zoomed in early time, so you can differentiate between the first shot, the FRP, the first round pop, and the second shot, the shot right after FRP. Do you see how in early time the FRP runs away pretty quickly? And when I say FRP, I'm talking about the holistic waveform. The black curve, shot 1 curve, runs away pretty quickly. I think that's just the name of the game for this design. And when I say that, I let me qualify that statement. It's the name of the game for this design in this size envelope. And I would posit something to you. Is it possible this is made worse by the zilch mount? I mean, maybe. I don't want to say definitively, but maybe. One thing that is working against you with the Recce is that you don't have a lot of time for FRP quench. Why is that? It's what I talked about the past 2 episodes, the dimension of time. It waits for no man, it waits for no silencer, and your silencer is super short, super duper short. Whatever happens during that first shot, has to be contained and quenched. You cannot keep that combustion train going all the way to the exit, or what's going to happen? It's going to be FRP Town, USA, population U. Okay, what happened with the Recce? Well, you're going to get some FRP. Did they have enough time to quench? Well, obviously a little bit, but not a lot of it. The FRP jet is quite severe, not only in amplitude, but in positive phase duration. And if you look at the impulse plots in figure 2, you're going to see what I'm talking about more. Figure 2B, the sister figure to figure 2A, 2B zooms in. It shows you the rate is in fact elevated, and it continues almost linearly where it does throttle. Once it gets to the throttle, you get a linear thing. Now, it doesn't converge again until you're at peak accumulation in the other shots, which is interesting. All that extra energy in early time is definitely noticeable. Okay, I don't want to dwell on this FRP factor here and let it sour your opinion of the silencer. But I am saying it is an important finding, because with this particular design and the way Force Systems has chosen to take advantage of that low alpha, this is a consequence. Will mount make a difference? Maybe, but this is a system. And if you want to talk about this thing as a 5.1 inch long or whatever it is silencer, as tested, we're going to have this honest discussion together. Okay, now, out of respect for Force Systems, I'm not going to walk through every part of their design and why the FRP happens like it is, because that's moving into silencer design, and that's against PScience policy. Plus, like, you know, I just don't think we should be designing silencers on the podcast. I just don't think that's appropriate. We already do a podcast about silencers and talk about them. And somehow the feds are okay with that. Whatever, they're ITAR. This is right. This is a U.S. technology, but you know, it's on the internet. You can buy them. I will say, just to not leave you hanging, but not be like really detailed. When extra combustion happens, you have to somehow alleviate, you have to stop it. And some of the same things that they did in the silencer to make it work so great, fight them on the FRP battle. And you know, that zilch mount might be part of it. And we haven't done a bunch of different testing with the Recce with different mounts, so I don't want to like speculate too much, but boy, this thing is designed to flow and flow well. So I don't know. It's constructive feedback. They know it. We know it. You see it in the data. There's nothing to hide. It's just something I want you to be aware about. And don't think that the silencer is terrible because of the FRP. It's not. It's just that it's probably what's keeping the silencer from being like insane. Because without, I'm seeing as it is, it's really great. It's doing a really great job, especially, regardless of length. It's 1.25 inches shorter than an RC2. But to be truly groundbreaking, I think they would probably have to address the first shot. That's just my opinion, and that's okay. They probably will. And maybe the mount changes will too. It'll make it longer, but whatever, okay? Moving away from FRP, you start to get really consistent, actually, which is awesome. If you want to look at that, let's look. What figure would be good? So figure 2A, if you click on it to make it bigger on the website, you can actually kind of see how shots 2 and 3 are like right on top of each other. And then what happens? This thing's small. It's getting hot quick. It flows a bunch. Same thing that happened. The similar mechanism that lets FRP happen also kind of lets stuff try to kind of run away and not stabilize low fast. So you will see a small performance delta in a string of fire, but I think as long as you have the right mount, you're not going to get crazy flow and flash. Now, I would reach out to Force Systems about that. I think with the silencer design, I think you probably can induce severe flash on a Mark 18 if you're not careful. But I have the sneaking suspicion that's mount related. I think so. Again, please be careful. There's that thing again, right? That hub mount blessing and curse. Yeah. It's funny. People get really bent out of shape when I criticize universal mounting, but then those same people want a silencer to be mount agnostic and be super awesome at everything. And those people don't understand how silencers work, so their opinion probably doesn't matter anyway, and they're going to learn eventually, but they sure do get vocal about it. It's like, well, you want universal mounting, but then you want it to be perfect. Well, it's like, well, okay, you also have to believe in physics, right? You want the best, most optimized system ever, but you also want it to be completely user variable? No. It's like, I want a Formula One car, but I want to be able to run tires from Costco on it. Okay, well, maybe you're not going to win your Formula One race. So moving to some performance comparisons, this is actually pretty easy. Honestly, this is going to be an easy conversation. You can count on almost one hand what is trying to compete with this. And most things fail spectacularly, actually. Let's go down the list. Knights Armament QDC MCQ. Okay, shorter and not even in the same league as the Recce. The Recce's performance is so much higher than the MCQ that it might not even be fair to compare them. Some people might be mad because it's a little bit shorter. Okay, we won't compare them. We won't talk about the MCQ. Now, you can actually go longer than the Recce and still not do as well. You can go Polonium K. Look, I'm sorry. Recce is more balanced and you won't gas you out like a Polonium K. That's the truth. Now, in defense of the Polonium K is not loud to bystanders like some of these other silencers. You know what else? You know what is loud? PWS BDE 556 in the short configuration. Huxworks Flow 556K. Short, those are loud to bystanders. You know that. You know what else is loud to bystanders in the same conversation? Energetic Armament ARX. Brother. The ARX is 5.8 inches long as tested, right? Remember when that came out and people on ARFCOM were enthralled with it? And it was like weird. They're like, oh my gosh, it's a wonder silencer, so amazing, so efficient. They said it's so efficient. Yeah, so good for the size, they said. Yeah. I'm here to tell you, the Recce does to the ARX what it does to the Knights Armament MCQ. Yeah. Utterly destroys it in performance in every possible way that's meaningful that I've seen. I mean, it's that different. Like, here. And you know what? If you find that like crazy to say, go find your buddy that says 556 suppression is stupid because it's supersonic. Go find that buddy. Okay, cool. Go have him shoot an ARX and a Recce back to back on the same gun, like tomorrow. When he gets his eyesight back after the ARX produces white hot arc flash in direct sunlight and his ears stop ringing even though he has earplugs in, like, maybe try to get an apology. Maybe accept his apology. Okay. I'm not being hyperbolic at all. Okay, there's levels to this. Form factor efficiency can be important to people. And when people talk about efficiency, I think it's great. I think that's really cool, especially when a designer works hard on design and say, man, we've really optimized this. And as an engineer, I understand how satisfying that could be in a design when you've really worked hard to optimize something for whatever parameter you're optimizing it for. That's really great. I get it. But also, minimum performance thresholds are also important. I tell young engineers I tell my junior engineers this all the time. I love how efficient you've made this design, but it doesn't meet the requirements. Try again. You know what else is really efficient? A 3-prong flash hider. Did you know that a 3-prong flash hider is a better flash hider than most silencers are? Yeah, it is. Did you know what else a 3-prong flash hider is? It's ridiculously loud. You know why? It's not a silencer. It might be more efficient at reducing flash because it does so very well and it's a fraction of the size and weight as a silencer, but when it comes to meeting actual user requirements for reducing blast overpressure risk from a firearm, the 3-prong flash hider fails you. That's the same logic with the MCQ and the ARCs. Are they better than unsuppressed? Oh, of course they are. I'd take either one of them over an unsuppressed setup any day of the week, actually, maybe. Unless you need flash suppression, because the ARC's flashes more than a flash hider could ever flash, ever. Ever, 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 twice on Sunday, ever. But you get what I'm saying. So you got to ask yourself, how long do you need to go to really be competitive with the Recce? How long do you need to go in the current data set to be competitive with the Recce on a Mark 18? Well, you got to go 6.1 inches as tested. You got to go to Cat WB. Yeah. The WB outperforms the Recce and everything, but it's bigger or longer. Okay. I mean, so as of right now, at least as of this discrete moment in time, the Recce is one of the leaders in suppressing the Mark 18 as efficiently as possible, and that's a good place to be. That's a huge place to be. You know what's interesting about the Recce? Or what else is interesting? It's actually competitive with the vented 5.56 version of the Infinity on the Mark 18, right? And the Infinity is 6.8 inches long, way longer than the Recce. Now, that's I'll give you it's apples to oranges because the Infinity is a 7.62 silencer, but it's worth mentioning because that's a vented 5.56 end cap, and the Infinity is actually a highly optimized 7.62 silencer for 5.56, but it's bigger, so I don't know. I think it's worth mentioning. Plus, we're going to talk about the Infinity and the M4 next, so it's kind of topical. I really got a kick out of looking at the shooter's ear waveforms in this test. So if you're, I know I told you I'm not going to leave you behind, but if you are a member and you have the full version up, please look at them. You do have some fast blowdown, but in the muzzle blast portion at least, you are able to see some things come out of the wave coalescence that you can't always see, since there are so many sources of blast loads happening simultaneously from AR-15 to the shooter's ear. You guys need to know that. Like, if you're not a member, you need to know that shooter's ear waveforms from the AR-15 are very complex, and trust me when I say most people don't really understand what they're looking at. There's so much blast load coming out of that ejection port before and after reciprocation that I don't know that you realize how dangerous it is. The thing about the Recce, and you can see this bolt carrier group impact onto the receiver extension before returning to battery, seeing that, like, it's really cool. It really does let that gun operate more properly than high back pressure silencers typically do, which is good. It's very consistent at the ear, which is nothing crazy though. It's not a Huxworks flow rate, but it's not an RC2 either. It's not WB flow, but it's not a polonium either. You know what I mean? You feel me? It's a good balance, especially for something so small that can still suppress a lot in the free field to bystanders. And that can be really important. And I'm still tickled it is this small and still doing so well. Okay, so let's look at some overall comparisons. That's what we should do. And what we did, if you scroll down, you see the big old bar chart that's really, really long. That figure 5. Below figure 5, I put two bulleted lists. The first bulleted list compares the Recce in free field bystander protection. That's the muzzle suppression rating. The second bulleted list compares the Recce with free field operator hazard reduction. That's the shooter's ear suppression rating. And the other things on this list are things that are kind of similar in risk. So at the muzzle, similar to risk in the free field to bystanders, like 1 meter left of the end cap, Cat WB, AAC M4 2000, CGS SCI 6, Huxworks Flow 762 Ti, Sanserco Saker 556, Otter Creek Labs Infinity 762 with a 556 vented end cap. We just talked about that. Otter Creek Labs Polonium K. We just talked about that. So some of these things. So at the muzzle, on average, the risk from the Recce is similar to a WB and M4 2000 and SCI 6. Guys, this thing's only 5 inches long. Imagine putting a 5.56 Mini 2 from Surefire on a Mark 18 and it doing this. It's not going to. Okay. Now let's look at the operator protection. It's a little bit, it's obviously lower. The AR-15 is really dangerous for the operator, but what's similar to this tiny baby silencer? LMT Ion LT with a 5.56 end cap is similar. Off-grid operator TI. The Infinity 762 with a 762 vented end cap. Again, the SCI 6. And then finally, the Aero Precision Lahar 30. Yeah, that big old Lahar 30. In the free field, it's about as risky to you, the operator, as this is. Guys, I'm telling you, right? right? I think there's a paragraph in here. There's more things. It's meets or exceeds the operator suppression rating performance of the Otter Creek Labs Polonium 30. Engaging industries operator. Yeah. So you can keep looking. So it's good to know. It's good stuff, right? Really, nothing but great things here from this new company, For Systems. They're doing great things. I think they're going to continue to do good things. That's my forecast. I think they're going to continue to improve, which seems to be the theme from these newer companies coming to Pew Science and really embracing the performance competition. I can tell you that I know For Systems, I don't think they're going to mind me saying this, but I know they're competitive, and that's okay. I think hungry companies end up eating well, and I think that's really good to see, and we are honored to provide a place where they can showcase their performance on a level playing field. Okay, I think that's the whole point of all this. You come to the race, you get your time slip, it pushes the whole industry forward, and we've seen that over the past 5 years. I really don't think we'd be here with these companies like this without doing these comparisons. I just don't think there'd be a push, and now there is, and it's awesome, and I love it. Okay, so big ups, big ups For Systems. You guys are awesome. Thank you for trusting us to perform the work. And I will say, speaking of new companies who really embraced the performance gauntlet, maybe you've heard of a little company called Otter Creek Labs. No, you know Otter Creek Labs is about as old as Pew Science, right? They started a little after we did, and we've been working together the whole time. So let's do that. Let's talk about the latest evaluation of the Infinity. Respect my authority. I love South Park. Let's talk about the Infinity at a time of 41 minutes and 33 seconds. Okay. One moment, please. Sound signature review 6196. Oh my goodness gracious. The Otter Creek Labs Infinity on the 14.5-inch mid-length gas M4A1. You have seen this durable, versatile silencer on everything from 7.62 NATO to subsonic 300 blackout to short barrel 5.56 NATO on that Mark 18. Have we solved its riddle yet? How does this hybrid design from Otter Creek Labs, this hybrid Infinity, how does it respond to lowering blast load input severity with 5.56? How does it respond? It's a very interesting report, very interesting findings, and keep in mind this is just an introduction to the report published tomorrow for me, today for you. Okay, and this is pretty cool, right? Because again, I know right now Otter Creek is doing a 5-year giveaway. And so please go hit them up on social media to enter that. They work hard, and they're trying to reward their loyal customers, which I think is so nice. And I think, I think it's in the celebration of their 5th year anniversary. We celebrated our anniversary back in March, our 5-year, and I think they're in the same age. And tell you what, we've watched them grow up. And, Pew Science, it might be new to the silencer industry in the past 5 years, that's fine, but we've been in this field 20 years, and I tell you, watching a vendor advance like them has been a pleasure to see. That's real talk. And for those of you who have never heard about the Otter Creek Labs Infinity silencer, today's episode is not the episode for you to learn about that. No. If you really want to learn about the Infinity, you need to find the initial reports and episodes. Just search Infinity on our website or YouTube channel or whatever, and you can get wherever you get your Pew Science info, and you're going to find what you're looking for. Today, what we're going to talk about real quick here is that report we're publishing that has some incredible findings in it. So what we did, we took the Mark 18 report format that we gave you before with the 3 different NCAP tests with the Infinity. We did the same exact thing with the M4. Okay, and what I tried to do was keep the narrative flow very similar. And what I did was I called out explicit differences between the Mark 18 performance and what we see with the M4 in the report. So what exactly happens to Infinity performance with the 3 different tested end caps when you increase your barrel length by 40%? Do you think the performance increases? Do you think it decreases? Or do you think it stays the same? And why or why not? Furthermore, do you think the different end caps make a difference in what you will observe like in those trends? Is it end cap dependent? I can tell you right now, friends, this report's one of the most pure and useful case studies on hybrid design performance variation that you might see ever. Hybrid designs simply do not behave like traditional designs, and the mechanisms of action show that when you change blast load input, higher or lower amplitude, or longer or shorter duration, you can completely change the behavior. Okay, so we put a summary chart up front in the report. You scroll down when you open the report in the morning, and you scroll down and you see it to figure 1. That it's cool because it shows directly compares only for the Infinity configs the Mark 18 to the M4. And I'm going to tell you right now, it is not, I repeat, not just limited to ejection port blast due to the differences. Let me back up. The differences in what you're going to see on the Mark 18 and the M4 with the Infinity, it's not just due to the ejection port blast from the different gas system on the two guns. It's not just that. There's actually performance differences in pure suppression that you're going to see based purely on combustion input into the silencer, and different regions of the silencer being exercised differently. Different regions of the Infinity work differently based on the distal vent orifice configuration, and when you change barrel length, those things work differently. Some of it you're going to be like, whoa. I'm like, I know. So my forecast of this review is that it's going to make people think, like, they're going to think harder about hybrid designs, and specifically, I think it's going to make people look at the Infinity a lot closer, because I think once you see that first chart in the beginning of the report, figure 1, I think you're all going to realize something if you haven't already. Suppressed small arm weapon systems are systems. Boy, howdy, can the Infinity do some cool things, even make that barrel a little bit longer than a Mark 18. Ooh, boy. Look at that. Now, and it can also do something that you maybe don't want. I mean, do you want to do that? Do you want to use an Infinity on a 14.5-inch M4 and huff it around? You might. Not my rodeo, but I mean, I might have like a 14.5-inch machine gun or like FRT or super safety if you want to. If you want to ride or die and freaking go to town with that gun and shoot full auto, Infinity is definitely appropriate for that in so many ways. Super durable. It's made for machine guns. Go check out the report. Tell me what you think. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you get a lot out of it. I think the high-level conclusions are the most technically interesting that a lot of you will probably ever see. No one else in the history of silencers has ever shown you anything like this. Just like, if you're keeping score, which we are, we are keeping score. And I'm telling you, you've never seen anything like this ever. It's why the silencer sound standard exists. You can make 100 different test standards and test silencers 100 different ways. It's all about how you look at the data. Okay? We're going to be back next episode to do a technical deep dive. You've seen the Infinity again on 308, 300 Blackout, Mark 18, and now M4. Bask in the research glory. Okay? So huge thanks, as always, to Otter Creek Labs, their entire team, Andrew and Big Andrew and everybody. John, you're a good guy. Thank you for trusting us to perform the work. We really appreciate it. Okay, guys, please let me know. Enjoy the report. I'll be available to answer questions, and we'll reconvene next week or next podcast to go into the deep dive, okay? Please stay safe out there, and I will talk with you folks again soon. Okay, bye.